The Ignition Tournament Grand Finals just happened over the weekend, and TSM took home the gold with a dominant performance. Not only did they destroy the other team in the Grand Finals match, they actually did it with no Sage at all. You see, the meta is rapidly changing in this game, and an emphasis on snipers and star players to back them up is bubbling to the surface. So let's break down everything you need to know about the new upcoming meta in this video and just how TSM is so dominant even without a Sage. Smash that sub button if you want to see future meta analysis or in-depth VOD reviews, but enough talking, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So right when we get started, the first thing I want you to notice before we talk about anything else is TSM, on Ascent in particular, is playing a very untraditional comp. You might notice right off the bat that the most notorious character, a character that everyone thinks is far and away the best character in the game, Sage, is not on TSM's team. Now, your first initial response, and the response from a lot of people, is that this is just simply wrong. It's a mistake. But TSM dominates this tournament, making them the best team right now in NA, and they use this strat. So let me explain exactly what they're doing with this team composition to allow you to understand the macro strategies and apply it to your games. So first off, you have to be asking yourself, what does this team gain over not playing a Sage? Well, the thing is, while both teams share a Cypher and a Sova, which is very important, I'm gonna talk about that in a second, the thing is, having both a Brimstone and an Omen provides you extra smokes and LOS blocking ability. That is so important on Ascent in particular because of the large middle section of the map. Look at these giant areas where enemies can op from. Opping is dominant on this map, and not being able to smoke off multiple sidelines put you at an inherent disadvantage. While Sage thrives more at being able to lock up a single site, due to the nature and the avenues of being able to reroute on this map, it is far more important in controlling sightline, protecting information, and gathering it at the same time. Speaking of gathering information, that is the reason for Cypher and Sova on both teams. Being able to gather information on attack and defense and lock down a site is vital when you're talking about a potential sniper battle. Now, before we jump into it, the bread and butter of this video, which is the sniper battles, which literally defines the meta right now, we have to talk about one other key distinction in Phoenix versus Breach. Now, the community's perception is that Breach is far and away better, mine as well, but I understand several reasons why Drone picks up the Phoenix over the Breach. For one, without the Sage's heals, there's less forms of sustain, meaning that you can't get up to a full fighting force that easily. Not that you could anyways, because of how difficult it is to be playing split and actually rotate to go to your Sage to get healed up, but playing Phoenix allows you to heal yourself, gives you that extra bit of sustain, and brings comparable flashes to the table. On top of it, Drone, multiple times throughout this map that I'm going to break down, really used his ultimate Run It Back to aggressively gather information. It further goes to show how much of an information battle this is, and the LOS blocking ability of his flame wall coupled with the Omen smokes and the Brimstone walls worked in a pinch, really hiding the information about rotation, which is so important. This map is all about understanding where the enemy is and trying to deny enemy sightlines. Now, a really big strat that TSM and T1 really use that you need to start incorporating in your games right away is really utilizing your time. It is so important that you use your clock to gather that information and struggle for that control. You see, T1 in particular really use their time efficiently. They don't push onto any site, they wait and they're patient. They try to gather as much information and vie for space and kills. Controlling the middle of the map, baiting out smokes in particular, is so important against a composition like TSM's, and that's what they try for most often. The biggest flaw though is sometimes their pace wasn't quite fast enough, but with enough practice, I think that they'll get it right on point. Now, moving on to the most important part of this video, we got to talk about the sniper wars, which is literally so important on this map. It is completely dominant on this meta, and we have to talk about Wardell. Wardell had a slaughter of a game. He absolutely dominated the opposition. He rarely ever died, got pick after pick, and basically hard carried his team to victory up against pros like Brax, who are incredible. Let's break down exactly how he did this. Well, first off, he is playing Sova, which is an extremely good sniper class, and the way he uses his recon arrows to set up his snipes is phenomenal. So look at this example right here where he's holding the site. Now, notice the second he gets smoked off, he waits for the enemy to push in and commit to the site because they have a limited time, because their smokes are going to die out and they need to push onto site before the smokes die out. he throws his recon arrow short. He doesn't launch it, give enemies time to track it. He throws it short right outside the smoke, tags enemies with it. He will instantly shoot them or snipe them when he sees them through the smoke. So essentially what he's doing is he's using his recon arrow as a way to actually counter the enemy's smokes, which is insanely powerful, like I've said before in the past, when smokes are meant to block LOS, and you're basically countering that protection of information with your information gathering ability. Now, another thing that Wardell does extremely well is he actually will hold angles for his team. He will hold an aggressive angle and allow his teammate to push up aggressively. Now, enemies will often want to counter swing this if they hear footsteps, but Wardell is always there for the punish, which is very important, and Wardell will never miss these shots where he's simply holding an angle and guarding his allies back. Guarding an angle with an op means that you're basically guaranteed a kill as long as you can react to the enemy clicking in front of your screen. Now, speaking of sniper strategies, what is really important for you to understand is the economy of it all. So let's break it down from the beginning so that you can really understand. So right off the bat in pistol round, this is pretty par for the course. Wardell and Hayes are buying armor plus a regular pistol, and Hayes is buying smokes. The rest of the team is buying their ghost plus all their utility and business as usual. Now, TSM's gonna win this first round, and the second round, Wardell does something actually very interesting. Wardell actually makes just enough money in order to buy a Marshal and still have 25 credits left. He got this because they won the round and he managed to secure 2 kills. Now, why is it important that he has 2,500 credits? Well, with the preceding round win, which is almost guaranteed because his team has bought better weapons and the enemy is almost assured to save because they need to save up for that AR plus their armor. Now, Wardell specifically targets this 2,500 because a round win without any kills will give him 3,000 credit, which will put him up to that 5,500 credits. Now, why is that important? Well, you could buy an operator plus full armor. You're not going to have any abilities, but you have some abilities from the previous round. And of course, you don't need abilities as much because you still have your recon arrow and you get the operator, which is so important on the third round because if you win the first round and you save the second round and win that round as well, because you only buy a pistol, you only buy a ghost, or you buy the Marshal like Wardell did because he got 2 kills. But if he didn't get 2 kills, he would have bought the ghost as he's done in the past. Then on the third round, you get to buy operators when the enemy team can only afford ARs. And on a map like Ascent, especially when you're playing a composition that has more LOS control, you could play well outside the range of a Breach. You stay well outside of the effective range of a Sage. She doesn't do anything to you. The only smokes that the enemy team has is the Omen. They don't even have the Brimstone to potentially lock up multiple sightlines. Opping is just going to be completely dominant in that scenario. And what Wardell does is he really snowballs himself from winning the first round to getting the second round from free and really actively thinking about buying that operator. Now, his whole team will play around this. And when you're playing a sniper, you need to understand the power that you have on a map like Ascent. You can hold all sorts of sightlines, and it's very important that you mix it up because whatever sideline you're holding, enemies are going to be very hesitant to push. The enemy have to invest smokes in order to get through, and with the enemy only having one true smoke in the Omen, it's going to be very difficult. And with the tech that I told you before, when you just throw the recon arrow right outside the smoke, Wardell actually managed to secure kill after kill, even if the enemy tried to smoke him off and push onto point. Now, after watching this whole game, you can easily see how dominant this sniper rifle is, and you can see how TSM has made the movement away from Sage. We all know just how powerful Sage is as a character, but understanding that the game doesn't center around that sustain and instead centers around these one-shots can allow you to paint the picture to perhaps justify Sage in some scenarios on this map in particular. Now, do I think that you could play this map with a Sage? Yes, 100%, and I do think that you can definitely make Sage work, and she brings so much power to the table. But I greatly understand this team composition for TSM in particular because of how good their opera is in Wardell. Wardell was absolutely nutty. He is perhaps the best opera in the game right now, period. I mean, this guy is absolutely nuts. And when you have a star player like that on your team, when you have a really good opera on your team, you want to enable them to the best of your ability. And the way you do that is by applying more pressure to the enemy and preventing them from getting easy lines of sight by having more smokes on the team. So in that vein, you make the simple transition from a Sage to a Brimstone, and of course, now that you don't have the extra sustain, you get a little bit of a fragger that does have that sustain in the Phoenix, and that is the team composition that looks to be actually centered around the sniper meta, which is extremely dominant, especially on Ascent, but I'm thinking that the whole meta is going to start shifting towards more and more ops, maybe even to the point where ops get nerfed, but we'll have to wait and see. And specifically, when you have a player like Wardell on your team that can really pop off like that, you can easily see how this composition enables that. And that ultimately is the reason why this team didn't play Sage, but still absolutely dominated the tournament. Now, what I'm more curious about is, what do you think about this? Do you think that Sage is only not viable in this scenario? Do you think that this is going to be something going forward? Do you think that the operator's power level is too high? I definitely want to know all your takes in the comments down below, but smash that subscribe button, especially if you want to see an in-depth breakdown of this. This is a general meta breakdown, but if you want me to talk about individual plays and break them down step by step, you definitely gotta let me know in the comments down below, because there's a lot to learn from here. Just like when we learned with Wardell, there was tons of things that Brax did, there's tons of things that Drone did that we can all learn from. So if you want to see that, smash that sub button right now.